I'd like to call the Central School Board meeting to order on May 19th, 2025 with all board members present. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to E4, approval of the agenda. Is there any comments, changes from board members? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Aishin, second by Robots. Any other conversations, questions, additions? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Agenda is approved. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Schockmeyer, is there anything you want to highlight in the consent agenda?
No, ma'am.
All right. Any conversations from board members?
Consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Crales, second by Krieger. Any other conversations? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Acceptance of gifts. All right, here we go. Anonymous donor gave for Mental Health Day jewelry making supplies. The Molnall family supplies for Mental Health Day. $1,500 from the Central Boosters for Mental Health Day. AirPods from Citizens Bank, Crayola Experience tickets from the Patriot newspaper, tablecloths for prom for $522 from Central Booster Club, $1,500 scholarship from American Red Cross, $80 from SLS Incorporated for Mental Health Day, $50 from the Messics from Mental Health Day, swag from Edward Jones, Target gift cards from Sackett Waconia for $100, 2 massages from Sacred Health Chiropractic, $100 Quick Trip gift cards, 10 of them, the West Carver Lions, swag for Mental Health Day from Old National Bank, gift cards for Mental Health Day, $120 from Tim Law Office, and $500 for Mental Health Day from the NYA Lions. Thank you to our community for their generous gifts. Any conversations or questions? Move to approve gifts. I'll second that. Motion made by Erickson, second by Aishins. Any other conversations? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Gifts are approved. We'll move on to the public forum, but I think nobody's here for that. So then we'll move on to our monthly reports. Student Council, if you would mind just saying your name and go ahead and share the end of the year with us.
I'm Rosella Traver from Student Council. As you know, we recently had Mental Health Day. We helped a lot with that. We helped bring teachers what they were using, show them what supplies they were going to be using. We also did tattoos for teachers for Earth Day to just do a little bit of fundraising. So students could buy a tattoo and then pick a teacher that was willing to do it, and then they would wear that tattoo for the day. That was most of what we've done the past 2 months. Mr. Lesh, do you have anything else to add? That was what we've done so far. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for all the work you guys have done and have a good summer.
Yes.
Thank you. Student representative reports. Did Caitlin have anything she wanted to talk about?
No, she didn't have anything, but she did. She's at softball, possibly playing great. But she sent me regrets. Sorry.
No, you go.
Superintendent. Okay, so I just noticed this when I pulled it up that I attached the same photo twice. That was inadvertent, but we are ending our enrollment fairly strong. We're right around, I think it was 929 is what our enrollment ended at. So just kind of a year capsulated. We started with 944 students, ended with, like I said, right around 930. That is typical, and as later on, Ms. Groshin goes over the fiscal year 26 budget, you'll see how we roll that into the next year. We still have curriculum purchases and staff development that's going to be happening this summer, so all of that is on target, and our tech levy is also on target because there's still some final bills from the building project that are rolled rolled into that tech levy. So you can see the tech levy is only about half spent down, but that will get spent with some final bills from the building project. I've done mostly a head count for graduation. I just want to talk about that. We have our graduation on Friday, and Principal Larson, our percentage of kids graduating this year, I'm putting you on the spot here. We're still calculating. So we have finals coming up. We are hoping that number is as high as it possibly can be. I don't think it's going to be 100%, but we should be in the 90s. So graduation is at 6 o'clock this coming Friday. And I don't mean to, are you coming, Josh, or are you you're gonna be gone? Okay, so I think everyone's coming, except for two of us. Just a reminder to be there at 5:45. We are walking into that gym at 6 o'clock. So Miss Patience will be up on stage. Everyone else will be on the side for those that is first time. There is a like a social hour, if you will, for staff right in here at starting at 5 o'clock. You're welcome to join and kind of socialize with the staff. So that's all I have. Well, actually, one last thing. Today is the last the last day of the legislative session. As of the last time I checked, which is about a half an hour ago, there's only one bill of significance that's passed that affects education, is on some pension reform. We're going to kind of be in a wait and see mode. So I'm just again foreshadowing. You're about to hear from Ms. Grosham for the fiscal year 26, from a fiscal year 26 preliminary budget. All of that is. There's a lot of assumptions in that budget that we don't necessarily know yet. So there could be some changes between now and then. Now, that is all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for Lieutenant Schuckler? Okay, we'll go on discussion items. Oh, do anybody have any board reports? Sorry. Nope. Oh, you're ready to move it along. Girl, I've gone for 1 month and look what happened. Go. Now we're ready.
Discussion items. D1 fiscal year preliminary, fiscal year 26 preliminary budget.
With us tonight is Amy Grosham. She is our finance coordinator for the district. So she will be presenting the budget. I think, Amy, what would you prefer? If they have questions, do you want them to interrupt you, or do you want to go through the whole thing? What would be easiest for you?
Probably best if we don't get till the end.
Yep, so let's have her go through, and then if you have questions, we'll address those at the end. So go ahead, Ms. Grosham.
Okay, moving on. Y26 preliminary budget. So here we are in May, just discussing the preliminary budget for approval prior to June 30th. Just wanted to start by talking about our enrollment. As Mr. Schockemeyer said, we started this current year at 944 students. We're ending at 928 students. We also know that we are losing 84 seniors this year graduating, and we're predicting a lower kindergarten class size of about 55. So that's about 30 students difference. We also know historically we gain about 10 to 12 students coming in ninth grade just from the non-publics. And we also gain 10 to 15 students coming in from various grades for various reasons moving in. So that closes the gap of seniors going out to kindergartners coming in. But we are budgeting or have this budget based off of 915 students. That's leaving us a little bit of wiggle room for any withdrawals that come in summer months. We'll continue to monitor to see if we have any major changes, but we feel pretty comfortable with this number. Moving on to the general fund comparison of the FY25 revised budget to the FY26 preliminary budget. Major changes in revenue include an increase in the general education per pupil formula of about $200 per pupil. Another increase is state special education due to cross subsidy aid, and an increase in restricted basic skills revenue. So a large increase there. The big changes on the expense side include allocation for contract increases along with steps for our teachers. There's also an employer-paid TRA increase of 0.75%, and that's reflected in the employee benefits line. There's also year-over-year increases for purchase service contracts, and the large difference there in capital expenditures is due to our construction project. This leaves us with $133,000 of revenue over expenditures. And then just diving a little bit deeper into our general fund, this slide here breaks down the general fund unassigned, assigned, and our restricted funds. So as you can see, the unassigned line, that does drop a little bit due to that transfer out to cover the Q count shortfall. And then on the restricted fund balance side, we're seeing a $200,000 increase. Like I said, that's basically due to the basic skills restricted revenue. Our district was one of the few that formula change helped, just due to our direct certification rate for free and reduced benefits. So we're a winner on that. That could change in future years. We'll just keep an eye and monitor that. So like I said, our unassigned fund balance does drop a little bit, but it does maintain an 8% unassigned fund balance. And then our restricted funds make up that difference to bring us to $133,000 revenue over expenditures. This visual here is just our general fund revenue by source. As you can see, our biggest source of revenue comes from state aid at 75%. It's mainly driven off of pupils, followed by our 20% in levy and 3% in federal aid and 2% in our local revenue. On the expense side, this graph shows our expenses by object. As you know, our people are our most important. Most of our budget, 68%, is in salaries and benefits. And the next biggest expenses are purchase services, which include transportation and custodial, along with some specialty positions purchased from the districts. And then lastly, our supplies and materials, along with capital expenses, make up the remaining 8% of that expenditure budget. Moving on to the community education funds, we're seeing a positive change in fund balance there of about $24,000, just due to some staffing changes we've made for the coming year. We also continue to monitor preschool registrations to see if there's any significant changes there. But overall, the community ed fund is looking in a positive direction from prior years. And then in summary, this next slide here shows all of our funds. As you can see, they remain positive and balanced. And like I mentioned, we'll continue to monitor our enrollment and pay attention to the legislation, see what happens there. But most of that would probably affect the 26-27 school year. Otherwise, this is the preliminary budget, and we're not expecting any drastic changes. So the next would be the budget revision in the February-March timeframe. Any questions?
Where do you feel like the biggest risk is in the budget coming this year?
Biggest risk would probably be enrollment. We just never know what families are moving or what families decide to go somewhere else.
So to piggyback on what Ms. Roshan has heard stated, we have some processes in place. Ms. Perlick, who runs all of our enrollments, we have a in-time spreadsheet. And matter of fact, I met with some of you this morning to go over the board meeting. I think we had 21 enrollments. by the end of the day today, we had 24 enrollments, new enrollments for next year. So that's moving in the positive direction, and then over the summer, we'll have a real-time access of like who's coming in and who's going out. Unfortunately, because of the nature of just how schools work, a lot of those staff in other districts are gone for the summer. So like the first 2 weeks in August is when we usually, like if we get transfers out, that's when that happens. It doesn't necessarily happen in June.
So
So
we'll see a step change at the end.
yes, exactly. So, and we do have some, I think we do have some buffer built into our enrollment projections. They are conservative, but you know, if something bad were to happen, you know, it could go upside down real quick. And I think Ms. Grosjean also stated, you know, what's happening at the legislature. I did, you know, we've had some positive trends in enrollment the last few years. So if we can keep those to continue, that could offset some of the budget reductions, because you notice in that pie graph that she created, the big green part, state aid, is $10 million of our revenue. Well, that is exactly what is being reduced as we speak at the legislature. So, you know, something has to balance out. So just sounding the cautionary alarm for a year from now.
Besides enrollment of the 915, are there other conservative pieces baked into that? Just seeing what the legislature has kind of tossed out as potential reductions?
Do you want
Anything else that's baked into this budget?
to talk about the special ed and the audit potentially? Or were you thinking something else?
Well, this budget reflects an increase in special education
Okay,
need.
yeah.
So I think we've already balanced that out.
Are there big things yet that are up in the air at the legislature that, we can always come back and do a
Yes, so-
budget revision sooner than February too. if
Agreed,
something really
and-
fell apart,
Yeah.
but-
Well, I think the problem, so like Ms. Grosjean said, if there's reductions, the cadence of school finance in Minnesota is, you all passed a levy in 2024 that started in 2025, so all of this year we're collecting the taxes for 2026. So if there are major reductions or major changes, it would most likely be reflected in fiscal year 27 budget.
Cause I heard the Q comp shortfall, that's not baked, that's another worry that was on the
Yep.
legislative docket to get rid of Q comp,
Yep, and
correct?
so,
But that's not part of this.
no,
I didn't know
No,
if that was,
that would take
okay.
effect.
so.
In the next year,
Yeah.
Okay, so let
okay,
me,
sorry.
how you frame that question or that statement, actually, so when Ms. Grosjean talked about the Q comp shortfall, we levy for our Q comp plan, the Q comp plan that's developed in 2014, 2013, whenever we came on Q comp. And at that time, we had, just ballparking here, 100 more students. So we were levied, so that's the amount of revenue we are generating. As our enrollment has declined over the last decade, we are still paying out some of those stipends, and there's a $59,000 shortfall. If Q comp went away tomorrow, it would absolutely, that would, yes, it is. So that would absolutely impact our teachers in terms of the stipend that they get for their goals. But from a district standpoint, we would actually be saving $59,257 from the general fund that we wouldn't be having to cross subsidize Q comp. But that would be on the backs of $2,700 for each of our teachers. Ideally, if we have Q comp, I would love the revenues to match the expenses. That's the
Okay.
thought
So
of it.
that's not, okay, that was
Yeah.
kind of my question. That's
That's-
reflective of
Yeah.
that.
Yes, but we just carry it forward, so that way we are tracking it and monitoring it. So that would, that's why it's called out on that sheet. So I think I do think, I am gonna state this, I think one piece that is still in flux is last year at this time, we stated that we had a large special ed, maybe that's 2 years ago, we had a large special ed expense. I think we have budgeted for fiscal year 25, the current budget, very, very, very conservatively around special ed. And I think there's a possibility that our revenues could come in even a little bit higher on that, which could affect the very first, so I'm on page, can you? I'm looking, no,
Page 5.
page 5, maybe that was it. Yeah, it's
General fund balance?
general fund revenue, yep,
Right.
that one right there. So that very top number, 1,204,645, that's the assumed carry forward from fiscal year 25. I think that number could be bigger, which then therefore we are carrying that forward, which therefore start our fund balance at more than 8%.
So you think the expenditure for fiscal 25 is gonna be lower than budgeted, or
I think the revenue is gonna be higher.
is gonna be higher?
And unfortunately, we did, like, special ed is its own beast, so we're like 3 years behind in special ed. That's just how it is audited. So, we feel like we've been very conservative about that number. Is that a fair
Yep.
assumption?
Other questions from board members? Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. E2, school program and curriculum year-end update.
Okay, so, they are in one slide deck. So back to back to back to back, we are gonna have, Principal Erpenbach, then we will have Principal Larson, and then we will have, Director Braun and Coordinator Holstead. Coming up and giving their year-end reports. So same thing as with Ms. Roshan, just let's have them go through, and then if you have questions, we'll take questions for each one of them. So go ahead, Principal Erpenbach.
Have, do you see something
I
back there?
can watch the mirror.
Oh. Okay, try to look back, like, what are you looking at? There's our goal sheet. 2 through 5, FastBridge is the assessment we use in both math and reading. And I think we've had it like 4 years, maybe. It's really a good assessment, and I think what it gives us the most is not just baseline data, but it gives us some real strategies on how to move kids, which I think is that's the key, right? You get the data, and then what do you do with that data? So I think it's a really good tool. So just explaining the tool. You saw our baseline test was in the fall, 57% of our kids proficient in reading in grades 2 through 5, and our goal was 65, and we came in at 66. I can't even tell you how excited I am. And there's other data that's coming that we can't necessarily release yet, but is coming. And it's like the most exciting thing I've seen since I've been here. And I'm not exaggerating. It is, it's phenomenal. And I don't know what to do. I'm happy for you. I'm not happy for me, I'm happy for every, it's needle moving stuff that you're gonna get to see in a little while. And I'm going off tangent here, which I like to do sometimes, but I'm gonna do it real quickly. It's needle moving because it took so much of a lift. And I know this is a 1-year goal and plan, but this is 1 year, and it took lots of years and lots of effort by board members, most importantly, the community, to vote for the things they voted for that allowed us to put these things in place. And then you have to have some patience, and that gets to be challenging when you're hoping and praying that those scores are moving in the direction they are. And then when they start to move in that direction, it just feels like this amazing shot of air goes into your teaching staff, your kids, and your parents, and you folks, and the people here who work so hard to do it. And we're doing it. Like on your watch, we're doing it. And that is an amazing feeling for me. So back to the goal of this, you can see, if you go to the next slide, here were our steps to meet that goal. And you can see it was built on FastBridge data. I think the second one is probably the most important bullet point. So it suggests our kids they read accurately, which is obviously a really good thing. But then you have to read at a pace that allows you to comprehend. Because if you're spending all your time trying to decode and trying to do those things, your brain just gets exhausted and it doesn't have time to really comprehend what you're reading. And through some really good work of data and Andrea and our classroom teachers, we keyed in on it's the speed at which we read. And if we can move that pace up, it allows some more brain capacity to do the hard thing of comprehending. And we were really intentional about hitting that hard, and it was right. We were accurate, and we were ready for the next step, which was a better pace, for a lack of a better term, to read at a quicker pace, which gives you more time in your brain. And our teachers were so good at setting groups and moving kids around and not being stuck in one spot at one time. So the credit is certainly all to them and to Andrea for the things we did this year. We had people come in and watch our PLCs. He was amazed at the things our teachers were doing in there and talking about. Andrea and I had twice a month, I don't know if that's the word, bi-weekly or bi-monthly conversations for us to be accountable, to make sure that we were actually looking at that data and we were making sure that it was being addressed. And it was good for both Andrea and it was good for me that it just stayed in your front lobe. It stayed right here on my eyes all year. This is the charge. And if we can move that, this will work. And weekly support from NBE, we're still in some ongoing support, and we have some things planned for next year already that are so, I think, gonna move the needle another step. So you move it a bunch, and then I think, like he described to us, when you get that move, the chance for the next move is easier. And I'm hopeful that all the heavy lifting is done, and now it's just the constant pushing. That's how we got to our goal. If you have questions, you could certainly ask, and I'll do my best to explain. Or you can wait until Rich is done. That might be better.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Larson.
Thanks, Ron. Good job. So the next one is secondary schools. We have 3 goals that I'm gonna share on, and we are 2 out of 3. Let's give you a heads up on that. This is our guiding document, and this is something I shared again with our staff this past Friday when we looked at, talked about our data. Andrea and I have been having data meetings with each of our teachers who have math or literacy standards in their content to look at some of the data, talk about how we can support them, what we need to celebrate, what the next steps are, but really trying to keep focused on what it is that we want to accomplish and aligning our resources to that. So our first goal is the math goal. It was based on FastBridge. I want to point out that these baseline data points are really high. 73 and 71, and we stayed about flat for the MCA. Our goal was to go up by 3. Even though we didn't hit it, having that number of kids still being proficient in math on a FastBridge is still a very good number, as you can see. You know, some of the things that we're continuing to do is our PLC, our math PLC is doing some really great things. You've probably heard about the Building Thinking Classroom. We have a new math elective. We did some really great things to support basically trying to keep any kid from failing math. And we put some things in place with that. Our math staff just went to the conference in Duluth, and we have some new work to accommodate the new standards, which are going to incorporate data science. And we have a plan that we're going to be rolling out starting next year. Feel really confident in that. And probably most importantly, we've had an inadequate resource, I would say, and we're really taking good steps to find a new resource. The resource itself is good, just not aligned the way we would want it to do with Minnesota standards. Is that how you say that, Andrea? For reading, you can see that our baseline was 71 at the middle school, and middle school really jumped 75.2. That was really great to see on the Fast Bridge, and high school also jumped. So we were really pleased by that. Again, we're really working hard on having our standards be the thing that drives what we do every day in class. You expect a bit of a dip with the new curriculum, and this was our first year fully implementing it. And we didn't really have that dip, and we're continuing to learn to use StudySync and continuing to really understand its capacities and apply it across all of our classrooms. We have an MTSS team where we have reading students who are reading interventions. I had a chance to do progress monitoring with kids that Ms. Rogie worked with, and it's so fun to see them grow. These data studies with teachers that we have with each of our teachers that teach reading, looking at the data, triangulating and making plans. And then continuing, we did goal setting with all of our students so that they can see what they got on the MCA before, and they can see what they did on the Fast Bridge. And sometimes the numbers are arbitrary, but it just is meaningful for, especially for middle school types, just see if you can beat your score and level up. We just want to include them in that. Finally, our culture and climate goal. We've used intentionally a consistent survey across year to year because you can see growth. And our goal was met by gaining 3%. We had 91.6 of our students that answered agree or strongly agree to I feel there's an adult in the building who knows me well. There were a few that said no. To that one, there's a follow-up, and it's like, is there something like? And if there were 4 kids that said no to that, and I've been following up with those kids this week, those 4, just to make sure that they are cared for, and that's been really good. So action steps there. You know, we share these culture climate results with those grade level PLCs. So it's like we can see who feels like they're not connected. We have our monthly assemblies. We talk about behavior data. We give reminders. Joe Clay is such a great dean, you all. He's clear and firm with the students and loving. We have monthly assemblies. You know, I think we've read 280 some kids got awards this year. 203 nominations by students for the Goose Award this year. Our PALC meets and they weigh in on some of these things, and we just have a lot of things that are built into that Raider time period. So with that, I'm gonna stop talking and ask if you have any questions.
With the new math resource and curriculum or standard changes, do you
Yes.
expect there to be a break-in period with kind of those 2 things coming together?
You know, potentially, Spencer, it's a really good question. With the new standards, they allow for a little bit of time before those standards really show up on the MCA 4. Would that be a year from now? We have one more, they give you a little lag time, right? So
27-20.
We're in a pretty
When
good,
they test it.
we're in a pretty good spot because we're, I'd say, ahead of the curve, but that's a super good question. Like if you get it implemented on the day, your first time at this new material with new ways to present it, and it's got us ahead of the curve. So that's a fair question to ask, and I would reasonably say normally yes. And I think this time we've mitigated some of that, Spencer, but I don't know that completely, but that's a really good question.
So very briefly, we're gonna accelerate our math students where some of the algebra standards are shrunk down just a little bit. So we're gonna hit that harder in 8th grade and include quadratics. There's then geometry as 9th graders, algebra 2 as 10th graders. So those both shifted down a year, and then build a class called data science to cover those new standards and pick up what may have been missed or needed to be reviewed from those other classes. And what I'm really excited about is that teachers are gonna be spiraling, which is every week, like going back and covering standards that we already did. Because then that will really help them be in a position where you roll that ahead 3 years. By the time that happens, the kids should be all set to be good on the MCA.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, great work, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
That baby, or like step terrible.
All right.
Okay, jump in.
Let Rich
Oh.
go forward.
Yes. All right, so I'm Becca Brown. He always says Brown, even though, he knows it's Brown, but that's fine. It's okay.
I love my team.
Get it at some point.
I call the Schottenheimer.
So I am the special ed director here at Public Schools. And before I get into my first goal, I just wanted to just kind of touch on FastBridge. There are two different screeners that we do. So A Math and A Reading are universal screeners designed to be short. So they're about 20 to 30 minutes and efficient. They allow the teachers to assess students' current skill levels and monitor their progress. And they're done 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. FastBridge, it provides detailed insight into specific areas of need, such as distinguishing between difficulties in phonics versus comprehension. It enables our teachers to tailor their instruction and intervention to meet the individual needs of our students. So students receiving special ed services are also required to take the MCA or the MCAS, just depends on their developmental cognitive abilities. And these results and the assessments are included in our overall school data that you guys and us review. What sets FastBridge apart is that it gives the case managers immediate access to the student progress data, and that supports them in being able to respond quickly in what those students need. So our first goal, we had 2 of them in our department, was looking at growth within our students in special ed that are receiving those services. And our baseline was at 67%. And I'm very excited to say that our results was at 78.2%. And that can't be credited just to our special ed department. That's credited to the general ed population, the teachers, and the work that the principals have talked about that's going on here at Central. It takes a whole village to make this work and for our students to make progress. So it's a celebration for all of us here at Central to see that. It's amazing. Put a smile on your face. Our celebrations at the elementary and the middle school, our staff continue to implement those science of reading strategies that we've learned through letters, podcasts that we're listening to, and everyone's just embracing this new information and trying to get it into the hands of our students. Within our middle school, Ms. Schrupp is new with us next year. You gotta go back up, Rich. She was new in the middle school this year, and then Ms. Easinger has also been helping support in the middle school. And we've been using a continuum of pushing into some of our English classes and also then having that pull-out time when we're in the resource room, which has been successful. I mean, as much inclusion as we can provide is always, research would show that that's beneficial for students. And we are using FastBridge progress monitoring. So weekly progress monitoring where we're seeing where they're at either nonsense words or correct words per minute, reading fluency. And we've been able to use our para educators up here to help with some of that data collection as well. Next steps, we continue to have some of us, myself included, in the training for letters. We're also having our para educators get trained in a version of letters. Leah Jelseth, our school psychologist, will be getting trained this summer so she can be the trainer for our paras. So that's exciting that they'll have that knowledge when they're working firsthand in those classroom settings with our students. Intentional goal setting based on that formal and informal data, both our own instructional goals that we're making, but also those IEP goals that we're using to drive instruction. Talking some co-teaching. So when I talk about that continuum of instruction where they're in the classroom versus being pulled up, some refer to it as co-teaching. We're not there yet. We're in the classrooms, but we're not necessarily co-teaching where the teacher, the gen ed teacher and the special ed teacher are planning together. Maybe they're both up there. One is doing the instruction, they're doing small group settings. That's the ultimate goal. And there's steps that we have to get there, PD around it to ensure that we're doing it effectively. I think we've started some steps in that direction and now expanding on it. And then that continued collaboration with gen ed and the special ed teams. As Rich and Ron have talked about, PLCs Our special ed teachers, they're included in all those PLCs. They're with the gen ed teacher. They're talking about the assessments that are going on in the classrooms. They're having that collaboration. So it's just continuing to do those things together because they're gen ed first, special ed second. So we always want to remember that when we're working with our kids. So our second goal is in the area of math. And again, looking at that growth, we were at our baseline was 67%. And again, I ran the numbers and we were at 75.6% of our students making progress. And again, that's on that screener assessment that they're taking. Some celebrations in the elementary and the middle school. We have resources in their hands now. Bridges is being used in K-5. And then Ms. Schrupp is teaching, it's called TransMath 6 through 8. And she's seen a lot of success. It uses spiraling, so each day they're reviewing things they're working on. I was in there and they were using strategies that 5th grade was using and they're 6th graders. So they're hearing that similar language. It's not all brand new to them. So some exciting things. Again, in middle school, they're using push-in and that pull-out, but Mr. Rogie also in the high school has been in Miss Ludford's math class, which gives him that opportunity to work with the kids in the classroom and then pull out during like a study hall and they can review that information. So we have plans for next year to get some more of that in the high school as well. And FastBridge progress monitoring in math, I would say 5, 10 grades, 5th grade through 10th grade, we're using that progress monitoring more often, and we'll continue to kind of learn and grow with that math progress monitoring. And on our next steps, same types of things as reading, just continuing that collaboration, some of that co-teaching, using our progress monitoring data to drive our instructions. Do you want to wait for questions till after her, or do you want to ask me first?
We can wait. We'll
Okay.
ponder. Apparently, I don't have a lot right now.
All right. All right, I'm going to jump in with curriculum updates. I'm Andrea Kolstad, and I'm going to start with the redact updates really quickly. You've been hearing about letters. Our early childhood letters is complete for our early childhood and preschool teachers. They just finished that this year. And again, letters is really about learning how a brain really learns to read. It's taking all of the guesswork out so that we can do exactly the right thing to help students in their reading. And phase 1, we're halfway through with grades 4 through 5, special ed teachers, middle school, high school intervention teachers, and our language teacher, Monica Turner. They will finish letters next year, so we're halfway through. It's a big process and a lot of time, but very worthwhile. You've heard about FastBridge. We continue to screen 3 times a year, and one of the requirements is that we are communicating with families after each screening if students are not proficient, so that we are providing what strategies that we're doing for them at school and also helping with what would be helpful at home as well. A new requirement is to have dyslexia screening in grades 4 through 12 for next year. The state has chosen the tool that we are using for that, and it's a screening is not a diagnosis. It's basically identifying who might have characteristics so that we can look at them further. So that will be for next year. As you've heard, we are seeing some really good results, and especially around accuracy. I pulled some data again around accuracy today, and almost 100% of our 5th graders are reading at the accuracy goal, which means they are decoding, they are reading the words correctly. And again, just like Brad said, that makes it so that they can spend more time on comprehension. So for social studies, this is our first year implementing TCI. That is a resource that was purchased last spring for this year, and it's pretty much a district-wide resource. I was able to meet with the parent, the curriculum the curriculum advisory, as well as the American Indian Parent Advisory, and talk through some of the social studies work and share with them the curriculum maps that teachers have been working on. And I will tell you, it's been a very smooth transition. It's almost, I would say, quiet, and I think that's a good thing. As they roll out this resource and work through the standards, and really that's a testament to the work that the social studies department did as far as
identifying what are essential standards. As you've heard me talk probably before about, we have a local lens that we get to identify what standards we're going to really emphasize. And, you know, that's all done through curriculum mapping. And so I was able to share that with them and hear their feedback. An update with the new standards is that a new part of the standards, a strand, is on ethnic studies. So there are strands on citizenship and government, economics, geography, and history. And these are all just woven into the social studies classes. I did put up some examples for you. You can see the first example by that sequence of numbers. It's a 2, so that's a 2nd grade standard. And the second example is a 7th grade standard. And the third example is a high school. It starts with a 9 for 9 through 12. And these will be woven into social studies classes. Again, the teachers are able to use their discretion to decide as teams what they're focusing on. In 2026, we're also required to offer a course in ethnic studies. What we have done is actually last spring identify what the course sequence would be. We have to offer economics for seniors. And so what the social studies department did with Rich is put together how it will look as far as what they will take throughout high school. So next year, our 9th and 10th grade students will take geography with those ethnic studies woven in, and then our 10th graders as well. And then the following year, it'll work out so that the 9th graders will always have geography, ethnic studies. The 10th graders will have U.S. history or a push on advanced placement. 11th graders will have world history, and then our seniors will have economics. The purchase this year that I get to brag about this is for our preschool, and they have been using a Scholastic resource that has been okay. This is a really big deal. This is a purchase that I think will really help our preschool shine. It's a very, very highly ranked preschool curriculum. It is all about the whole child and giving them opportunities to do some investigation work and hands-on, lots of play-based. And while they're doing that, the teachers get to adapt as far as what the students are finding that they're really interested in, what is really working. And they're really excited about it. It's going to take some training, and we have a person who's going to come and train the preschool staff next fall, late summer, I should say. Along with the preschool resource comes with an assessment, and this is also something that they've been asking for. They want to know exactly what the students are needing support in, and so this resource comes with this TS Gold assessment, and while they're watching students and observing what they're doing, they are able to take some informal notes and really differentiate for the little students. So I'm excited to share that. As far as what is next, math is the math standards were officially adopted this spring. We had originally had plans to purchase this year, and after looking at the new standards and the teachers going to the Duluth conference, it was decided we just need more training. We need to learn exactly what these new standards are all about and what best practice, so that next year when we're ready to purchase, we know exactly what's the best resource that will do what we need it to. And so there has been efforts on training. We've had people come into the elementary. We've had secondary teachers who have went to that conference, and they're continuing to learn about building thinking classrooms and how to tweak that. And we have learned, if you look at the next slide, we have learned a lot about what the math standards really involve. And it makes a lot of sense, really, what they have decided, what's important in those standards. They have basically broken them up into
making sure that students have a really strong understanding of the why, the foundational, like, you know, if you think about a student setting up blocks when they're younger, as far as, you know, when they're adding or even dividing up things for division, there's a strong push to make sure that they have an understanding of why and how things work, and then building that fluency on facts and procedures. And then the other part of that is to tackle real world problems and really at the application piece. Rich mentioned that, say, like social studies, how we had to kind of redesign the sequence of classes. This is a shout out for the math department. They are really being forward thinking about this. And one actually teacher said, "We are ahead." It was a good feeling. They have been kind of thinking about how this will work in the future. And so starting next year, our 9th graders will have geometry, then they go to algebra, and then the following year in 11th grade, they'll have a data probability statistics class. And just, it feels good to be ahead and not have to, you know, worry about some of these changes coming up, but feel like we know what we're doing. So it's all really good. The last slide, I'm not going to read it. I shared this with the curriculum advisory, and they keep encouraging to have this be shared too, because it's a thank you to the levy and the curriculum review cycle that Tim created, and just everyone's support. So I'll leave that out there.
Well, thank you. Any questions from board members? Comments? Great work.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one comment because they've all kind of went around the edges on this a little bit. So you can see some of the Fastbridge scores that we have, and basically, so Andrew, I'm gonna ask you to correct me if I say this wrong, but if you are proficient on Fastbridge, you have a X probability of passing the MCA. What's X?
There's an 80%.
80% chance, okay? So I can't share it with you yet, but we have some preliminary results. I'm gonna foreshadow here very delicately. We have our preliminary MCA results, and I can. There we go. Like, I love my team. Just from the balls of the room. Like there are going to be certain things, like, you know, the MCA results get shared right around the state fair time. There are going to be some areas where, like, we have some of the highest scores in a decade, some of the highest scores in forever. So we need those to get finalized, but come August or come September, we're going to be coming back and be sharing some of them. We just can't do it public right now, but we are very excited, and I give all the credit to the leaders in this room and the teachers in the trenches with the kids. There was a spot last year, and Ron kind of touched on it, where in the training, you know, after all the training and implementation, and we didn't see the results that we necessarily wanted, that there's like this, you know, and I would say the attitude, because the teachers get to see the results, they get to see their own classroom results. And I would say that attitude is nearly completely 180'd, and it's good. So just to be
Kudos.
School, so we have this #1 ranked preschool curriculum. Is that something that we can advertise and other people in the area use that?
It is a common one. I do think we should advertise.
Don't buy us all.
Well, I mean, if it's something we've never used before, and it's #1, you know, why are we using the #1 thing? You know, why don't we say that?
I agree.
Get them early, get them early.
Sorry.
Okay, any other questions? Sorry.
Great work, everyone.
Fabulous
job,
everyone.
That was fun. That was fun, thank you.
Thank you.
D3, board committee changes.
Okay, so last month we had the Baseball Association here, and we approved the MOU to engage in a partnership with them. As part of that dialogue, Josh Crales brought up, his desire to potentially look at some of the board committee, assignments or, excuse me, create possibly a facilities committee. And so I basically in the meeting, I said, hey, we'll set that aside and we'll put it as an agenda item, this month. And so Josh, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna kind of turn it over to you to just maybe talk about your thoughts from last month and go.
Yeah,
there.
just
Yep.
the, obviously we have the football fields as a new thing and there's a lot going on there. And then with the turf, all the outside stuff, we have committees for how many other things. We should have something that's, now we have maintenance of lawnmower. I mean, we have stuff that we're doing all on our own. So the board should have more of an idea of what's going on. So that's sort of that, and I'd be more than happy to be on that committee. I don't know what it really looks like yet, but we'll just go on the fly with it.
I'd be happy to help you out, Josh.
When you think about facilities, should be not just outside but inside. It should probably be a generalized facility committee.
For sure, the outside, because there's, with the turf and new things that we never had before. So that's where I was going. But yeah, we could definitely have it include gyms as well, whatever.
Some of that stuff will probably trickle.
I think it's a good idea, but I'm gonna be the opposite side of it and I just want us to be cautious that we don't get too far into the weeds with certain things. I think there's pros and cons to it and
maybe a little, if you talking about maybe some guardrails around what would.
Yeah,
the committee all
something, yeah,
fit into,
yeah,
and What would
yeah.
that look like, and maybe, Tim, hate to kick it towards you, but would you wanna brainstorm a little bit with your team about what would that look like as your representatives on that?
Okay.
And then what kind of stuff, where could the board be helpful on the facilities piece of it, and then bringing that stuff back to how the facility is used,
Mhm.
indoor, outdoor.
Cause I mean, some of our usage agreements could fall into this as well, because that was something this year, the rental, the rental agreements, because that's basically was the crux of the baseball association is kind of work around with that. So I guess I have no problem with this at all. And what's the proper timing? Cause I know, cause in July, we don't have a board meeting in July. So June, we're gonna reset all of our
Our
committees.
organizational meeting happens.
So can we just add this to it? And then it sounds to me like, I don't think we need more than 2 people, to be honest. It sounds like Troy and Josh would already, wanna do that, and then we can just set that up as
Can
one.
we add that and then vote on, or not vote on it, but we have to do a formalized.
Yeah, well, you
going
have to
through all
vote
those
on
other
it, yeah,
committee-
yep.
All those other committees and then just do it then.
And just make sure that everything is equally dispersed, and then we can and then whoever's on the committee, I can work with them to, hey, we're gonna meet bi-monthly or whatever that may be.
Some envisioning, you might wanna talk to some of your,
Yeah,
Joe on that, like you might have to gather a little bit so we can talk about it in June and then reassess the committees and go from there. Does that work, Josh?
I would say, from the schools, from just the regular staff standpoint, Cody, our facilities manager, Bill Clay would absolutely be kind of involved too, you know what I mean? That's just off the top of my head.
Throw it on the agenda for.
Yeah, I mean, could you look at when they come here, then they want to do this, they want to do that. Well, that stuff Troy and I could sort of give, like we do for community ed, for example, right?
Yep.
They want to do this, they want to have this color. We think this is great, it should be maroon, that type of stuff, and then bring it to you guys instead of having them sit here and we go back and forth,
Just make it more efficient.
And it's just a second pair of eyes, from the ordinary, cause like Joe and them guys, not knocking them, but they're here every day, walking around. Say, they might just miss something, or we've got another set of eyes out there. Might just keep it cleaner.
Okay, so I'm gonna add it to our committee agenda, for June, and then that will just be a standing.
Perfect.
Easy enough.
Anything else on that? Gonna need to.
Josh, you good?
I'm good.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Operational items, E1, consideration of the 2025-26 Iowa resolution.
So each year, either sometimes it's the May, sometimes it's the June meeting, you as a board have to, have a resolution that names me and somebody else as the Iowa, and it's the identified official with authority. And what that does is I take that resolution, I send it into MDE. MDE will assign one of the systems to me and to Amy. And then I then can divvy out the systems, for example, every single year, the principals have to do a discipline incident reporting. It's called the DIR system, Discipline Incident Reporting System, where they put in all of our in-school and out-of-school suspensions. Not that we have a lot, for those of you watching at home. But I give Principal Larson that access. So this is like the first step of making sure everyone in the place has access to what they need to have access to.
Questions from board members about the Iowa resolution?
Was there like a state rep originally from Iowa, like how?
No, it's, so that Iowa stands for Identified Official with Authority. Okay, sorry.
As they get through the house.
Yeah, you were doing a joke and I wasn't biting, sorry.
Here you all move to approve the 25-26 Iowa resolution as presented. Second. Motion made by Aishin, second by Erickson. Any other conversations? Wow, you gave us all the credit already. All right, it's a roll call vote, so I'll start with Crayles.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Benz.
Aye.
Aishin's aye. Probach. Aye. Krieger.
Aye.
Erickson.
Aye.
All right, resolution is passed.
E2 2025-26 MSHSL membership resolution.
All right, so every year we join the Minnesota State High School League. There's some pieces that we have to fill out, like who's going to be our who's going to vote on our behalf, who's our activities representative. Generally, it's always Joe Clay, and I think we've already identified. I can't remember, but I think it's Troy.
Troy,
Yeah,
yeah.
so your name will be on this. So sometimes you'll get a ballot to vote on some things and whatnot. But like, we have to join the Minnesota High School League, otherwise our kids can't participate. So this is more of a formality, but we absolutely need to join. So my recommendation is to approve this.
So you're forcing your hand on this one?
I'm not forcing anything. I will send the phone calls to you if you choose not to.
Any conversation from board members?
Motion to approve resolution for membership in the MSHSL.
Second.
Motion made by Probach, second by Krieger. Any other conversations? All right, hearing none, is also a roll call vote. This time we'll start with Erickson.
Aye.
Krieger.
Aye.
Probach.
Aye.
Aishin's aye. Benz.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Crayles.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Our next board meeting is June 23rd, 2025 here at 6 o'clock, but did you want to talk about a potential work session?
So because we are not having a July meeting, typically we do like a board kind of outline for the year. Like, these are the topics we need to do. Typically that's done for new members, that's done in a work study session. We have, like, there's just some work that we have to do. I just don't see us not having a work session next month. So typically, so we could do that in a couple of ways. We could do it prior to the board meeting, or we could do it, we could have another meeting that's just a work study meeting that's 2 Mondays prior. So like the second Monday, or no, it would be either the first, well, it's early already because it's, yeah. So I would say we could have meetings back-to-back weeks, or we could just have a work study session prior to this one, and then the regular board meeting. That would be my preference, but obviously we can work around. Not everyone has to be there but we do need a quorum, and it's a time that we kind of hash out some things in terms of schedule. I don't know. What is?
Like a 5 o'clock start?
Yeah, 5 o'clock. I mean,
Or do you want
5, gosh, if it would be 4:45, that would even be better. I don't even know if it's possible.
I'd prefer we do it the same day.
Yep.
Spencer, do you think you could,
Yeah, I mean, I can make it early start.
you can make that work?
Yep.
I
Okay.
am on vacation.
You're on vacation?
I'm on
Oh,
vacation also that day.
You are?
Yes.
There's a board meeting that day.
I know.
Okay, I don't know, I'm gonna push it to you, Chair.
Well,
What do you wanna do?
who is the backup if the two backups are not?
Well,
Sure.
it's, yeah, I mean, we'll be able to get through the meeting. I mean, are you?
I mean,
I'm not worried about that part. I mean, do you?
I'm okay if I'm not
Yeah.
here unless people wanted to look at a different regular board meeting. I hate to do that because they're published as.
Yeah, I mean, we could put, we can push it to the next, because it isn't on the 23rd.
Yeah, we can do the
I mean, we
30th,
could
but I
do the
don't
30th.
wanna do that to everybody. It's not.
Or we just roll, I mean, this isn't the first time that a board member or members are gonna be done. I don't know,
I'll lean on the team. I mean, I'm okay if I'm not there, but then I would just say leave it.
leave it.
Business.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry,
So-
everyone.
I will meet with you two, like we typically do, chair and vice chair, to give first eyes to the board calendar of what what we'll do, and then we'll talk it through, with, you're good, you're good. So we'll make it work, okay?
Sounds good. Well,
Okay. So
Well,
can we do 4:45 on the 23rd? Okay, 4:45 on the 23rd. So then I'll publish both the works. So the work study session will last an hour and 15 minutes, and then the board meeting will last, we'll start at 6 o'clock. We'll try to have a little 10-minute break in there. Okey dokey. No, you're good. Don't worry about it.
all right. Well, our last thing, we'll look for a motion to adjourn after that. Motion by Probus, is there a second?
Second.
Well, we'll let Krieger go. All right, anything else? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.